Dear New York, I'm going to pretend just a made-up section of you guys already agrees with me. I want to tell you what we talk about and what our plan is. Like, for example, the 5 theaters. For example, I'm training them how to train the species body. I'm training them to feel and have the connection of millions of people from suburbs throughout America. Not just for New York City, for urban, but we have to train ourselves to get ready to fathom what we're going to do, to realize its means, to have, saying a gift per science, the species body of volume. This is in relationship to why and how. All the letters of the English alphabet per decipher, using correlation, using its identity and its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that, which is bigger than its body of value. So we'll examine the invisible but still discernible. For example, that in conjunction to how and to why we are individual, grouped, and species identity of volume simultaneously. As the species identity of volume, which will only stay complete, and as the individual, because it can only stay complete, our nature as value as nature simultaneously as its own. Locqtions, come home. Sciences are criminally re-engineered since semi-ancient times, since before modern nations, religious messengers in latter semi-ancient times. District of minds. Self-valued as victims, not fathoming, as shock and awe. Every modern nation, semi-ages before them, reacting to negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures they didn't know how to counter. Without self-valuing, roles with the sciences tactically abridged from their actual having been revealed state. That which actually is positive also, positive unto itself, temporary, lasting positive, as the republic for which we stand. But we know, originally it was inherited, still with a breaching method entrenched below and above our founding parents and colonists A through Z and Native Americans A through Z, yet liberated, yet with free speech, while other was forced pretended by everyone, juxtaposed to other motivations, nature's needs of interest, but not the real ones, but not the real one, /S, that had all these motivations, nature's roles, entertaining you what you can't entertain and justify it, and defend from the nature and method of criminal insidiousness nature, /S, maintained by a breaching organized crime method that American history simultaneously clear as day, and black as midnight, with its stars in demonstration of the identity they share. Just as each identity, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously the same one as each distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneously physically manifest part of each cell. See how cells of plant life and human life have cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall. Cell walls connected, body of value, manifest. Individual, grouped, and together. The invisible but discernible is in demonstration to us. So a breaching organized crime method. For example, with before, while, being, and beyond another way, as one identity of sequence / simultaneous nature that will only stay a simultaneous nature as the value of each sequence nature. positive or negative to itself simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly. 5 identities of value, as 5 orders of value, are 5 volumes of positive that are distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneously positive or negative to the same identity and generation of more of its identity of volume, the body of forever. Each identity of volume has a unique identity of relationship to itself, individually grouped and together. Everything is in demonstration of its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that. Inventions work or not in relationship to this identity of value / value progression / simultaneous nature. It is referred to me as a nature, and I'm saying that the ancients referred to it this way, and because in nature as identity. And this is in relation to how we are its identity, and we are our own distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously of its everything is simultaneously in demonstration of its distinct identity, its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that. An invisible but still discernible identity, the body of forever, self-generating, how it is self-generating, manifest, in relationship to how there are these 5 identities of these 5 orders of value, as sequence nature / simultaneous nature, as value as nature as value / nature as value. Those sequence natures, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, as each one has a simultaneous nature, as the value of the / also as 3 semi-natures. This is where now a little bit more of a volume is being made. But this is also the science of how that more and more forever nature being made, the volume of the identity of the body of forever. It could also be positive or negative to itself, because an identity is simultaneously a relationship to positive and to negative that is simultaneous. These 5 orders of value also have a simultaneous identity of relationship to themselves. Sequence true before the order of the finite. Sequence true as the value of the order of the finite. Sequence true as the value of the order of what is active. And sequence true as the value of what is progressive. The value of progression. The order of the value of progression, too. Simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously in relationship to those 4 identities of value and identities complete. It's simultaneous / semi/simultaneous relationship to itself as a trinity, as even the smallest identity of value / value progression is, per correlations means. This is not just theory. So this is also, for example, really why in latter semi-ancient times Jesus Christ had to use cipher. Could not speak directly, but he had to speak directly too. For example, in the beginning of the Old Testament, where it says all you have to understand is this part here, where the sciences come together. That is overtly saying what he had to say, but what everyone needed said. But it is simultaneously saying it wrongly, because the messengers of modern religions knew, per recorded proofs, per correlation, that they already had all locations, areas, states, all sciences, all database relationships, already rolls with the criminally foreign influence semi-ancient sciences that came from ancient times, the republic for which we stand, came from times before inter-nation sciences were tactically, criminally re-engineered. Everyone forced to react to that simultaneously, as simultaneously self-valued denied value of the value of internation sciences, denied value of the internations of group sciences, denied value of individual sciences more and more. When we are positive value nature, also positive unto ourselves /s, it is in that sequence first. Individual rights. Because we're all exceptions to exception nature. Everyone's self-valuing identity of negative value nature, progression, acts, and natures blamed on other things other than selves. This is a method that has had everyone demonstrate, confess, and record. Inter-branch, inter-everything. Private, overt criminal enterprises. Demonstrating their collusion with sequence shifts, with identity thefts, with database organized crime method, with child campuses, with locations on and off the campuses, with live progressions tied to that, time treatments and everything like that. No, everyone wants to stay positive. So that, we don't have control over that. Control, too, is a word, /value. The steward, the experts on logic, they are recorded and involved with juxtaposed natures of organized crime, also with the various natures of courts. And further from those locations originally and still. Not by accident, they had the value. Where identity natures are course, no. Where the value progressions, see, emotions have a relationship to, for example, to these 5 identities of sequence nature / simultaneous nature that are distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous unto and as themselves, and inseparable from themselves, even though invisible but still discernible demonstrably. The ancients revealed that when you are positive to what is actually sequence true, when you have that actually true, the order of the finite, when you have that actually value true, full out, searching for the identity of its perfection. That's why it's there, what works and what doesn't, what's further positive or not, as invention, for example. When you have the order of the active, the order of the progressive, and when you have, this is how identity is simultaneously a semi-nature and a complete nature, and the value of that. It is one identity's identity of relationship to itself and the value of that. Only the extent of it is debatable. Who debates that is also evidences. But they are recorded getting away with it perpetually because they've been valuing criminally foreign influenced fact treatment nature, conviction nature, opinions therefore, all simultaneously, intersciences, individually grouped in together, as victims, never having fathomed, originally and since semi-ancient times, the method, effectively, for a minority archetypal criminal enterprise to perpetually remotely use all positions of the human fact treatment nature, even kings, even pharaohs, and czars. You could make chiefs, locations, areas, states, sciences, database relationships, overt criminal enterprises were already originally and still unfathomed by everyone because everyone was allowed to talk about it and everyone was forced to speak otherwise, while they were investing in all database relationships only capable of self-valuing roles with which was to all locations, areas, and states already anyway. Blamed on other things other than themselves, further and further. The real causes for negative value nature progressions acts like predicate acts. Natures like criminal insidious natures, wrongdoers. Natures like wrongdoing itself. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a police force, I'm not a criminal. It is evidences how if regular citizens spoke about the law honestly, they would be framed. Their identities would be stolen. No. Identity fraud, and this would be in a sustained way. Identity frauds, thefts, right, where the as identities pretending to be other, so to say, sue us, but they were simultaneously recorded knowingly, worse than extortion, that if they tried to sue them, they would use that once they walked into those locations into a branch, they're going to be attached to fake things in databases. This is an identity of negative value nature progression, self-value. This knew and knows that we need to use words like police with positive. This kept them as criminal and seditious nature originally and still. It has the identities of every modern nation and hundreds of nations at the same time, fake sides, where and as and how it counts. Through lifetimes. A whole bunch of nations that don't even like each other fight each other. They love each other. Per how they share business, relationships, and training of each age of fact-keeping nature, each position of it. Each identity of the ground with location. All locations, areas, states, further and further. Per what is off campuses of each age and nature maintain collusion with itself. Originally and still self-valued. You can't defend that. You're manifest as a fact-keeping nature, as a criminal and seditious nature that can't defend that and afford discerned free speech with actual truth, with actual integrity. And when you do this and you sustain repeatedly asking to have the fake words and things they attaching us still, then and now, fixed, they won't do it. Because it shows, what is actually recorded shows hundreds of nations kept this, have this fluent through it, are involved with it, made it the outcome and kept it the outcome. But our branches of government, through administrations, criminally foreign influenced, inter-sciences of each age and nature, identity theft, frauds, roles, worst racketeering. Now this is relevant now because I caught them with child abuses of juxtaposed natures and with juxtaposed natures of organized crime and organized crime acts and methods. Acts like predicate acts, like mail crimes, wire crimes, identity theft, frauds. We have doctors attaching little kids to fake locations, fake words, fake ties to doctors, fake ties to mental diagnosis. Same doctors have been involved with predicate acts with databases and with kids with uses of that. Same people that were facilitated the jobs, all the different distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously all the jobs of Wethersfield Police Department associated with, people that went to my grade, involved with a whole bunch of police chiefs and former director of the FBI, a whole bunch of other FBI, their family members, CIA, their family members. Now, even if those were people just making stuff up to whatever their narratives were online, these are people recorded and involved with sequence shifts and evidence crime methods of courts and of their roles recorded with overt criminal enterprises and with the stewards of the witness protection program and themselves, like with the Fienza family, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved also with a Dillon family, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with my new and past neighbors involved with them, and other police forms with them, with predicate acts, and with uses of the they recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, threatening me and others, and pretending saying other at the same time. With each branch of government recorded individually, grouped in together, crime methods and motivations and uses of that as criminally foreign influenced predators, worse than the people they put in jail, destroyed the lives of. People they had and have roles keeping victims of what is inter-campuses of each age and nature. Now, people making confessions, demonstrations, and recorded roles with predicate acts to little kids and simultaneously pretending other. Their recorded uses their kids inter-branched through time. May pretend passion. Then it sounds like I had something to do with these people. What is actually recorded is how they have offensive evidence reception. And they're ducking behind, logistical impositions like their roles with on and off campuses, people that already had involvement. They have people call up the Wethersfield Police Department and pretend concerns because they're involved with those police personally with wrongdoing, sequence shifts, predicate acts roles. 2 Mendez police attached me to a fake conversation, put me in quotes, with an older one of Mendez, reportedly a Mendez brothers. Now, and Eric Mendez is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. I never had a class with him. Involved with identity thefts, frauds, and worse, in predicate acts roles with wire crimes groups. Influence to him per people involved with child programs like even police explorers. Even their roles with a unique Marines program. Now, that I never had anything to do. There are people all along Route 3 that goes by the state judicial branch offices too now. And the house is right next to the state judicial branch office, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. Fianza families involved with the branches of government individually grouped and together and with private tied to them like the police forms retired and standing with them. The judicial retiring and standing with them. And with media locations on and off Fox, Connecticut News, on and off the buildings next to them. Also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved with wire crime methods, and, identity theft frauds. They criminally pretend it's personal when you mention such. They're using phones, games, with everyone speaking through other criminally, which is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved with the method of child abuses and of roles of fake care, demonstrated theater, criminal ceaseless nature theater, pretending others simultaneously to little kids, and their uses of, so we have houses on. So we'll examine this. We'll examine a map. You guys don't want to follow the rules for the. So they have a Sullivan family that was confessed, recorded, and demonstrated by a whole bunch of people since when I was in a grammar school. Involved with them when that was in 6th grade. There's some people say I had nothing. You're sitting in class, even when the people that you do have class with, you sit on the other side of the class, you don't really know them, especially after whatever Debbie Gold pretended me to fake locations, fake sequence relationships to herself and others, fake words, fake ties to other people. After two other kids I never had a class with. Now these are people tied to Sandy Hook, or O'Brien family, had made confessions and demonstrations of their recorded roles with offensive. With investigators and investigations involved with organized crime, covering life progressions. Like, for example, worse than war crimes nature of simple organized crime. Why and how, no one figured out. The breaching organized crime method worse than slavery alone. With slavery wasn't just one thing. Worse than extortion, but it's part of it. And the worst part of it is they're using they're using roles, everyone blaming other things other than themselves, then defending that, then needing to defend that. Invested to styles of fake correlation, fake styles, with the shared fact-cheating nature collusion with a breaching organized crime method. Sustained on, now this is where we are, a value progression / simultaneous nature. Not, and increasingly as a quality of diffusion, what is temporary positive. Simultaneously, the 5 identities, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously relevant to where and how criminal incestuous nature, for example, is a demonstration of how temporary positive can be negative value nature. So we have passions and emotions. Even I'm not just saying there are different passions and emotions. I'm saying that all our experts make uses of their physical delusions when they make treatments of what passions and emotions are relationship to. They work with what is being valued per intent as 5 identities of sequence nature. And as note, with the order of the finite means you don't leave out the slightest exceptions. The value of that. Where and how logic, when it's finally being allowed to be led by what is true always and as exceptions at the same time. That is an identity of truth that will only stay positive to itself. The identity of the body of forever. And all exceptions in exception nature are in demonstration of that. For example, such as length of hadith, force-based nature transfer. So these are election locations roles. These are people what they call jobs, titles. So then to defend it, they have to start. These are the various identities of courts individually grouped in together, including FISA courts. This is originally instilled. What is evidence? So only is discernible. I don't want to pick one person out. But not one person who has spoken about slavery, about American history, has not done so. I mean, all I've heard was takes in juxtaposed physical delusions, sequence shift, self-value, to then and identity nature is offensively sensitive, while pretending to be other. Is sick fake justice. Means to get over on people because the identities of law to all locations. Even being charged with crimes is an assault against people when they know it's not true too. That's why they pretend passions and emotions and they attach lies to things. But that's with precedents. What is actually recorded shows that precedents and that statutes were our self-valued criminally foreign influenced. The stewards of them delusions wrought. The stewards of the sciences delusions wrought. It's all right. They want to debate something. They want to have overall theories. They have to rely upon that. Always haven't been, because they can't follow mandated law. Because they already attach me and others to fake locations, fake ties. All exceptions, exception nature, recorded criminally in demonstration of the same thing. Vaccine. So they have a sequence shifting roles with prosecutors and with judges, and with all the people with Wethersfield police. Involve inter-cities, on-off Fox Connecticut News police, retired and standing judges, prosecutors, involved with the locations next to it. All kinds of natures of organized crime, with the same simple connections, actually recorded. So they invested 2 Domain brothers in a Domain family. Also recorded, confessed. I barely know them. They sought me out to demonstrate, confess, record, confirm their roles with people involved on and off Trinity College, with the locations all along Trinity College. Like that I barely know, and now they pretended other. Someone did for them. Like 2 Olsen brothers. People associated with the Mark Violet. On Facebook also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, and on Griswold Street, a former Mayor Gold, an Aiello family, also with other people in my area. I never saw him around. I barely saw him around ever. I never had a class with Joe Aiello. There was one time one of the times they pretended other was after my grade graduated. And the only reason I stayed back, too, was recorded, confessed, and demonstrated tied to people associated with the Dillon family I never had a conversation with. But he's also, I have an affidavit from a kid when I was a kid. They influenced the affidavit about how they wanted him to fabricate evidences, attach him to fake words. Same cliques associated with this Eric Mendez and with his older brother. Attach me on the police department, fake recorded transcript, fake recorded descriptions of what is actually visually recorded. Because no one's watching. No one's been watching. They were kept needing to do that in 6th grade. They also confessed and demonstrated, recorded that Central Connecticut State University in New Britain is also involved with the people involved with the predicate acts now, inter-citi, with my grammar school then, which is Highcrest School, which they also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated roles and confirmed roles with predicate acts with proven child sex offenders further then and now, involved with on and off campuses predicate acts with them of other natures of organized crime. These same cliques, interbranch and foreign, also one's roles with further World Trade Center predicate acts and with the investigators of it. And they attach the people I know from Saudi Arabia and from Kuwait. They influence them as victims. See, then you have to speak about people. If you don't speak about people, they set you up. These are all people associated with the prisons and with mosques and with church, religious locations, and with Jewish community centers, involved with the retired and standing judges, male and female. Also, they left out evidences of how females, their difference is forced used as a weapon by the males and females in collusion with that entrenched self-value, victim predators across the board. This knew that everyone would have to do. These are self-cultivated, breaching method propagated, breaching screens, tools, and worse than just weapons roles. Each modern nation is manifest as, thank God, for example, the great negative shows how easy positive it is that we could agree and discern how, since before cars, the pathology of infrastructure in Russia and America, nations with great, all the elements we need for evolution, but invested, incapable of defending their fact-shaping nature and their capabilities and their correlation nature. They're souls, and also at the same time, because they're victims of inter-sciences, inter-campuses of each age of nature, each inter-database relationships before computers. This invested all kinds of identity roles with the identity racketeering, identities of jobs, titles, per people A through Z, tribes A through Z, forced to entertain the republic stolen, not even remembered how, other forced to be preserved as their culture. Culture is this. It is this identity of volume that will only stay and can only stay. The value of what is grouped in species at the same time as the individual. Because there needs to be everything at once. That what is only increasing. I mean, we'll examine its identity of relation to itself, and the value of that. So this is pantheism. We have to set up the same method for every modern nation to do this at the same time. So war, whatever like that, the plague, all these things don't keep staying us. Prevented free speech, everyone pretending they're about free speech. Everyone pretend they could speak for reason and or for emotion simultaneously. They're preventing the logic with no criminal foreign influence from free speech, offensively. Now, and then when I went to middle school for 2 years, this is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with people associated with Central Connecticut State University, involved with predicate acts also, on and off my middle school, then relevant to ones now further involved with the people with further natures of predicate acts, and of organized crime with the proven child offenders, including the principal offender. Now, these are also people associated with a Dr. Z-Man. He's people associated, recorded, tied to a Dr. Z-Man and to his patients, and undercover people associated with them. Also with one of the proven sex offenders on the registry, involved with Dr. Zeman and a Judge Killian, with recorded predicate acts roles, with their crimes with Facebook pages of child campuses used for crimes with the worst patients and criminals before they were caught, as in their crimes forced that not to be told on, which got caught off campus anyway. There was way more tied to it then and now. Whole bunch of people on Two-Rod Highway I don't know at all. All exceptions in exception nature recorded involved sequence shifts. Involved not even realizing other was pretended. They forced their roles with sequence. And they said that this is how they're using sense and sensibilities of everyone. Preventing mandated law. New Britain's dozens of people from New Britain Superior Court recorded, confessed, and demonstrated roles with the crime methods of the courts, demonstrating that they fabricate information and steal people's identities. And also their roles are recorded, confessed, demonstrated, and confirmed with the Zeman guy who I told him 50,000 times. I don't want to have a conversation with, he recorded, he made a whole bunch of confessions, pretended things. And now before he did this, there was already a Leahy family recorded and involved with this Highcrest school with my town's police chief years ago. I guess there was a transition was involved with the numbers of names of different police chiefs, apparently. But there was one associated with a house on my street, a Ray Colo, that this one of the officer Sullivan, and that these two Mendez police are recorded, confessed, and demonstrating, attaching me to fake recorded things, sequence shifting. Now, there are judges that recorded, confessed, and demonstrate, fabricate charges for people, put huge bonds, so they could torture and do worse to innocent people, to hide their life progressions and the life progressions of their family members and all they have ever spoken to. Because this is recorded also how motivated to them. And as actually recorded. Inter-cities, the same ones that affected demonstrations, confessions recorded, what most people don't get to observe, which is how distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously the child campuses and on and off them in the suburbs, strangers confess, demonstrate, and record how the branches of government are self-valued, simultaneously criminally foreign influence, delusions wrought, crime methods, acts, and natures, simultaneously pretending other, simultaneously blaming other things, others, themselves for the causes of that dishonestly. See, but that's why we need to have other physical delusions simultaneously with the branches recorded, offensively preventing mandated law, refusing to follow rules, so they can keep using the interbranch locations to pretend things were recorded that never were, to pretend things that were recorded with video and audio that never were. Now, these are also their roles with people associated with the Mendez police, with inter-cities. This is Wethersfield, Connecticut Police Department involved with them. Also with predicate acts on and off New Britain Superior Court, they have roles with judges, prosecutors, their family members, their drug cliques, their sexual circles. They prevent people from having proper relationships to others because of how investigations and investigators to all locations were having to hide the collusion, also with overt criminal enterprises. Kept needing to hide the same finite, active, progressive lies together. differentially, so not true all the time, but many ways, especially regarding if they are or not undercover police. These at least two people, they use the name Joey Quest. Now there are men and women associated with Paul Ebted, I also don't know, who also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated is involved with investigators and investigations. Also involved with predicate acts on off-child campuses, inter-cities through time. And relevant to the predicate acts on off Hartford Hospital with foreign and domestic medical offenders of kids. Human trafficking roles, attaching little kids to fake ties to doctors and databases, fake locations, attaching their family members simultaneously to fake words. They put fake transcripts of the wire crime, with they actually recorded conversations on email and over the phone with the campuses, as the people involved with the Wethersfield police, with two families on the child sex offender registry. Further then and now, with various natures of courts involved with various natures of organized crime acts, illusions, and relevant to their roles with the illusions per the predicate acts on my street, including the police coming to my house a number of times, confessing, recording, and demonstrated that they switched names. They confess and demonstrate that they only have one officer named McGee, for example. But they have 3 officers, at least, that use that name, while they also confess, demonstrate, record their roles with stacking databases with predicate acts, with sequence shifts, with identity fraud, connected illusions, wire crime tied illusions, mail crime tied illusions, worse, predicate acts with cases, their roles with depositions, their roles confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, recorded, leading up to the World Trade Center attack, Hartford courts, New Britain Superior Court, Middletown courts, are involved with people, inter-cities, involved with the child campuses through time, inter-military, involved with database organized crime, live progressions from that used since before they had computers. So, if you have a phone, you have a smartphone, you have an ID, your phone has an ID. The coding works with IDs. Software coding, hardware coding, working with the idea of a computer. Can't help but that. One identity of volume does not leak, it only fills. All whisper creak, religion. Other kills. You've lost the course. I'll drop the force, boxing. So the first part of the Old Testament, if you could word it if they weren't already standing manifest, criminal and seditious natures, of fact-checking nature styles, of identity styles, the self-defense, can't defend that, and speak for the Republic at the same time, and speak for the nature of the law, truly, of correlation nature, means, one way redeems. So you need to understand. You need to get them on paper because they can't do it because they've been using passions and emotions with their descriptions of physical delusions about the descriptions of others. You're going to see every single case. They're sick originally and still. You're going to go into a court and the law says that you're black or white. The law is insane. They need to pretend other simultaneously. This is misprision and corruption. Individually grouped in together, each branch of government sickly, distinctly, sickly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. Hundreds of nations at once. World Trade Center, other nations' equivalents, victims, only capable of self-valuing, blame to other things, others themselves. Uses of their identities. Teid, where that's Teid. Manifest Washington Teid at the same time. What is manifest on off campuses of each age and nature? Their agreements with words, how to word it, we have to agree, so we need the wording for the child programs because we're the identity law, we deal with this topic, we're the experts, we were trained on this. And They're out of their minds with programs. Because they came through criminally foreign influence sciences. They came through this method that kept and keeps all positions of sophistication originally instill self-value, criminally foreign influence, delusions wrought, manifest, increasingly identity of negative value, nature progression, self-value. So all we have to do is use the science that its identity of relationship to itself that is also, when it's positive to all five at once, all orders of value at once, the five semi/simultaneous natures of the Trinity's identity is the body of forever. It is the spine of the inherent, the active and progressive that are bonded from a body that is also bigger than right to left will ever be, and bigger than right to left, left and right to big left. It is the identity that is left to right, bigger than left to right will ever be, as part of everything in demonstration of itself, invisible but still discernible, the identity of the body of forever. So this is identity's course. See, they have theory, inter-sciences, offensively maintained, with sense and sensibilities, also with names, uses of identities, passions and emotions, dishonest, criminal and seditious nature, self-value, uses of everything, every difference, to pretend that in conjunction with that theater, where everyone's speaking through other people other than themselves, so no one lets mandated law. Report abuses of crime acts and methods against kids. So the whole bunch of police are using a Sullivan family with a Park Street location, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated through life, through since before, longer than people I went to school with were alive. They were involved with child campuses in my town from their position in Hartford, involved with predicate acts and with people associated with this Debbie Gold, former Mayor Gold, and with this Joe Aiello. And there's an Aiello's Kitchen across from Buckley High School in Hartford, right across the street from it. Now note they have shootings on Buckley High School. He's also recorded. There's a DeMoro family. I don't think I ever saw them together. I barely know Joe Aiello, but DeMoro. At one time I saw him with Joe DeMoro. But Joe DeMoro also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with the Kerr family. Also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved with predicate acts with the former Mayor Gold and with a Joe Aiello, who didn't go to my grammar school, but that former Mayor Gold is involved with predicate acts when I was in grammar school, with sequence shifts, with that involved database crimes and people with on off campuses crimes. Whole bunch of people, dozens of people at the Britain Superior Court recorded, confessed. Now there's a Chris Cullen too. I only met one time. He's recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with this. I was waiting. That's why I found this out, because that was in middle school. I found these are the people involved with the lie progressions from the high school, and this method where they have people in other classes that spread sequence shifts, illusions, good and bad. Things people will like and not. Both of them used for a vertical and horizontal through needs to hide lie progressions. Vertical and horizontal leveraged all locations, areas, and states criminally foreign influenced. That's self-valued roles, breaching screen roles, breaching motivation roles, breaching nature roles, actually recorded natures, criminal states that can't stand free speech. Not one has heard American history true. It's not complicated. And it's not as extensive to understand as they think. And I need you to pretend, because their sequence shifts. They're devaluing of all the revelations relevant to those sequence told true. The fact, cheap nature of slavery recorded of our founding parents, the non-free speech of them, while they were pushing up the surface of it, is recorded evidence. How we have experts pretending opinions have legitimacy, pretending other now, pretending they don't realize that our founding parents didn't have free speech. They were fact, cheap nature slaves. If you're entertaining your neighbor, and you're in possession of a country, and you're claiming there was freedom when there was slavery, which was in the North and South. Not only was it in the North, it was sickly. For example, it was in the North. It was sickly distinctly in the North too, the same way it was sickly distinctly in the South. Specifically to keep the non-distinctly self-valued breaching screen hid through other motivations, nature's needs to interest to, other treatments of positive and negative, which are simultaneously treatments of identity. So we don't have mandated law followed. The branch, they use the words like the legal people tell the media to use words like attack, to tell people like, oh, the president attacked, rather than get to the substance of what he's saying, which is what they're all saying. They don't have free speech. Think if Barack Obama had free speech, he would leave. He's too good of a man. Would leave since before cars. This pathology of infrastructure in the suburbs, let alone. They designed for fact, cheap nature racketeering natures to blame other things other than themselves. Worse than Lord of the Flies. I never read the book, I saw the movie. But I'm saying, we'll examine the 5 identities of theater. So they have needs offensively to have theater defended through networks, through database relationships, all of them private simultaneously. Overt criminal enterprises kept needing to have the same sequential, finite, evaluate, defense styles of manifest of fact-cheating nature and such, while the branches of government themselves, all investigators, uses of their identities with their opinions and convictions, they can't defend that and put it on paper. Not without having everyone value the sequence shift roles. That's one of the things that everyone's a victim to, but they don't understand until too late. And how they understand it as how they got locked into needing to hide lies with the overt criminal enterprises, with the relationship to their uses of all programs, all insights into where the kids are going to be. Right, with the same people have to look, oh, it's logistics. So we need to have mandated law followed. So there are a whole bunch of countries here. They're using the identities. Oh, they're Russians and Americans, Russians against Russians, Americans against Americans. From a director of the FBI down, other agencies' directors. They're victims. But there are recorded victims that are only capable of blaming other things other than themselves for the real cause of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures as styles manifest simultaneously with the opinions of everyone. Same fact, cheapy nature illness. Same self-valued identity of negative value nature progression. Same recorded maintenance to that outcome. Same method. Archetypal criminal enterprise, the devil, Satan. More probable than Satan being a ghost. See, the ancients used the 5 theaters, which my part of a borough agrees. And the 5 theaters, when there are simultaneously 5 They are positive, also positive unto themselves always, not denying the slightest exception. And when that nature of care for those 5 theaters in relationship to what we're acting into existence, that brings evolution's fruits and gifts. That puts another identity of energy into energy is automatically temporary positive. See, but it's positive as criminal and ceaseless nature if it's not positive onto the 5 identities of sequence / simultaneous nature simultaneously. Now one can see, discern. This timeless method calls you home, please learn. So, we have doctors that record and confess and demonstrate. They record fake things, and they use offensively fake conversations with methods in them that pretend people have egos and pretend people are arrogant. That is also recorded, criminally, sickly used to prevent people free speech while they're stealing our identities, fake recorded things. Now there are dozens of people within the Britain Superior Court also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with predicate acts on my street with the Dillon family, and with medical and drug crime roles, and with untimely deaths on off Trinity College, and with their roles with predicate acts on off Central Connecticut State University. Trinity College is in Hartford, Connecticut. Central Connecticut State University is in New Britain. These are Connecticut inter-branch and inter-military and foreign and overt criminal enterprises and private ones with identity ground uses. Corner houses. So they have the sense and sensibilities. Everyone has to speak through others because we have to counter the grouped first and individual simultaneously. The executive and the judicial branch, their crime methods as killers. Now, their roles with the killing, just like the physical killers, with the guns in the areas like the Hartford's North End. In conjunction with this, relevant to Fox Connecticut News, the people who answer their phones, their treatments of time, always too fast, too slow, their treatments of logic, their treatments of the substance of other people's logic, of the substance of other people's identities, distinctly and non-distinctly from Fox News. But simultaneously, they're all criminally foreign influenced, all the networks. Their delusions raw. So there are roles with worse than extortion. All exceptions, exception nature. So I couldn't believe. This is how I found out how and why. People are they're gonna wait. Little boys and girls, they're gonna say they're not gonna. They could explain it. It's just too extensive, so they forget about it. Where and how overtly they have the interbranch, all private tied to them in overt criminal enterprises, involved with crime acts and confessions together through time, and simultaneously how they pretend to be other criminally. That is recorded relevant. Because the judicial branch and the executive branch has been preventing me and others from free speech since we were in grammar school. I found out after, too, through this, it was with houses on off where I went to kindergarten. This is on off from off campuses maintained, on off campuses roles. With which was already inter-sciences, inter-database relationships, inter-campuses, intra-campuses. Through that had already been blamed on other things other than themselves by people A1 through Z, whatever there is, of the entire species body in relationship to relevant colonists, A through Z. Opinions, conviction nature, identity nature, relevant Native Americans, A through Z. They were forced to be part of value nature systems and to defend that, to value that, need that, You can't defend that. Fact cheating nature-wise. And afford to use the short words and the long words of our species properly.